Here we are, May 2023. Recently, Techland decided to push out the gut feeling update to Dying Light 2, and it made a lot of bold enhancements and improvements to the current state of the game. The most notable one, the gore. It made Dying Light 2 way more brutal and thus making combat that much more satisfying. It was the part of the update I loved and praised, but the rest of it is a little bit of a mixed bag. There are some questionable actions and changes in here that make me scratch my head. A lot of the adjustments are just wild, and some of them are done in secrecy. For example, you remember Bloody Ties, the first DLC? Well, Techland made some secret changes in order to fix the story. Let me explain. Originally, when Bloody Ties came out, one of the first missions that occurred was with our favorite character, Churro. The first mission had Churro pickpocketing you, and then you go on a wild goose chase to get your money back. But then, here come the zombies. Churro, the one that literally stole your money, he needs help and you have no choice but to help him. So you do that, and from that point on, you become BFFs. Afterwards, you tag team into a tournament, you win, and the game tries really hard to get you to like him. The friendship between Aiden and Churro, it's very rushed, it's not interesting, and it's not compelling even in the slightest. But now, in this new update, everything I just described to you was removed entirely. You actually start the DLC by signing up, going right into the fight, and meeting Churro for the first time in the rink. There's no more pickpocketing. This entire fight sequence is now gone and it's no longer in the game. And I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. I'm quite dumbfounded. I have to say, I'm very open to the changes. I'm in favor of them reworking certain elements in order to have a more compelling plot. I actually have no issue with that, but the thing is, it could come off as a little bit awkward if it's not properly executed. And Techland going and changing cutscenes is not something new. We've seen this in the past. Techland altering character deaths to make them feel more impactful is a thing we've seen before. We have just never seen them reworking this game to this extent. And this is just one of the many changes that occurred in the recent update. Overall, the gut feeling update, it offered up a lot of good and a lot of bad. Techland nails it out of the park in some areas. The community, we wanted an option to turn off community events, and guess what? They out of that shit. We also got some major improvements that we didn't even ask for. The katana, they got new animations, and they're magnificent. This guy right here, he's the developer that did it. They let this guy cook. I don't know what it is, but the katana really has no right looking this good. That twirl, that little twirl right there, I love it. Give this man a raise. But like I said, Techland does a lot of good, and then they go and do things where, I don't know, they release a bundle, and people that purchase that bundle actually don't get what they purchased. They get something else entirely different. Now, excluding the gore because we already talked about that, let's go ahead and talk about everything else in areas where improvements could be made. But before we do so, let's get a quick message from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by War Thunder, one of the best vehicle combat games ever made. With over 2,000 different tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships, it makes for some really intense and interesting dynamic PvP battle. All of their vehicles are incredibly detailed, modeled down to individual components. Like, look how detailed that is. It offers up a truly immersive experience, and it's all playable on PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PS5, and also last gen as well. War Thunder has one of the best in-depth customization systems for all of your vehicles. You can apply different camos, place historical markings anywhere on your vehicle. It's truly impeccable. And on top of this, War Thunder just has incredibly beautiful graphics. Like, take a look at that right there. And the sound design in here, mwah, I'm honestly quite impressed with it. And starting today, you can play War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made for free on PC, PlayStation, and also Xbox. If you use my link down below in the description, you will get a large free bonus pack with multiple premium vehicles, premium account, boosters, and so much more. Thank you so much to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it now. This update directly took community feedback to help shape it. First up, we have Craft Masters. They now have an actual purpose in the game. Before this update, Craftmasters only really served as a way to upgrade your blueprints, but once you completed that, they were kind of useless. They would just stand there hoping someone comes up to talk to them.
I have literally nothing going on. I have no friends. Does anybody want to hang out?
But now, weapon crafting is a thing. They're the hot talk of the town. And to start it out, they give you the ability to craft the last hope. And as you can tell, it has some dog shit stats right there. Don't worry, we can go ahead and upgrade those blueprints a little bit right here, thereby increasing the damage, the durability, and the weapon tier to a certain point. Weapon crafting is an amazing addition to Dying Light 2, and this is a solid stepping stone to build on for the future. Completely makes this guy worth visiting again. But there is so much room for improvement to make this guy's role even bigger. Currently, most of the blueprints are only upgradable to the artifact tier, which is not the highest is legendary. I do think Tekken should go one step further and allow the blueprints to be crafted at that level, because even though we can upgrade them, some of the stats and damage numbers are kind of lackluster for endgame players. There are affixes, which are random stats that will be created on a weapon every time you craft them. Some players have an issue with it coming off as a little bit grindy. Myself, I'm a Destiny 2 player. Look how many hours I got right there. It's in my blood to reroll weapons, so I'm not exactly the best person to ask about his thoughts on this one. But what I can say is we also have to remember how we obtain these blueprints, because alongside this update, they added weapon blueprints back into the open world to be discoverable. Oh boy! Yes! That's right, there are now 37 blueprints out here for you to pick back up in the world, just like the original Dying Light, and I absolutely love this. This was a major request that we had for months. These weapons, you have to go out there, find them, and kind of in a way, earn them. There's a little bit more involvement required for them here, and because of that, I think we should be able to upgrade it to legendary status that it's currently lacking right now. But aside from that, I really have no major complaints when it comes to this improvement. One thing I will say though, I think it's time we go ahead and expand this guy's role even further and actually implement a proper weapon repairment system in this game. After playing Dead Island 2 for a good amount of time, it makes me realize the flaws of using a charm to fix your weapon, and because of that, I think it's really time for Dying Light 2 to take a step back and implement a system like that one. Nonetheless though, this is a good step in the right direction, and I hope over time we will see more weapon blueprints appearing in the game, because it really does encourage exploration for the player. But now I do want to go and shift topics to one that I hold near and dear to my heart: Transmog. The way Transmog is implemented is actually quite well done. How the UI functions, how the system is laid out, works a lot better than I ever expected it to be. For those unaware, Transmog, basically, you can apply the appearance of one piece of gear to another and keep the stats of the one that you prefer. It's purely for cosmetics and looking good and being able to keep the good stats that you want. But the thing is, there are two massive missed opportunities when it comes to this system. The first one being is not allowing outfits to be in the gear transmog system, and I actually brought this one up to Timon and he said how the outfits are designed, it's basically one single asset. What I'm asking for is to slice it up so you have individual components, therefore you can mix and match different outfits. If you want to put clowns on chickens or a really? High five. If you wanted to, you can put clowns on chickens or throw a Brecken t-shirt on there too. It opens up for so many different possibilities for player customization, which if you're going and selling outfit bundles, by the way, Tekken, this would incentivize players to purchase them because they have more options now. They can go ahead and incorporate it into their transmog. Timon did say that they will be looking into this to see what's possible from a developer standpoint. He said the team hadn't originally thought about it, but they'll dive deeper into it, and I honestly really appreciate the honesty here. I will say though, some of the outfits are already split into 6 pieces, such as the Stay Human one and also the Ronin one right here. Those can actually go and be used in Transmog right now, so I would love to see it be expanded on. If it's impossible to achieve in development for past outfits, maybe moving forward this could be the new way to design them. Another downside to Transmog is that it only applies to gear that's in your stash or in your inventory, and that's completely understandable. I have no issue with that, and I get that. However, there is a slight oversight here. That's because there are a lot of lower level gear items available in the world that the player can no longer come across because they're too high of a level. Certain gears and cosmetic items would only be available for players level 1 to 3, but not people in the higher levels. It's just not in their inventory tool. For me, I think the most optimal solution here is to just reintroduce that gear back into the open world, but of course have it readjusted for your current level. That would then again expand on player options that's available to them. I see some people saying all the gear that they picked up in the past should automatically be there. I personally think that's just not feasible from a developer standpoint, but if it is possible, it's possible. Do it that way. I just prefer the latter here. But now let's go ahead and talk physics and ragdolls. With this update came a huge overhaul to how enemies react to one another. There is now this domino effect where enemies can fall into one another, and there's a proper reaction to force and also weight. There are visible ragdoll improvements that really improve immersion. However, it doesn't work half the time. When it does work, it feels and looks great. It's honestly how it should have been at launch, but the hit reactions, the faster weapon swings, paired all alongside the gore, combat is just way more satisfying, and gameplay is way more entertaining than compared to previous updates. The changes to the grapple are just incredible. I'm really impressed with it. Literally just yeeting zombies anywhere you like, throwing them into oblivion, throwing them into another pile of zombies, and watching the dominoes fall feels quite rewarding.
I love you so much, Mila.
However, when it doesn't work, it looks so goofy and it reminds me of the same problems that have been here since day one. Zombies will sometimes just stand at ledges like there's an invisible barrier, blocking them. Volatiles still sometimes just miraculously float in the air. Certain special infected just aren't affected by the new changes. It feels like the physics and the ragdolls just weren't as polished as it should be, and it needs a little bit of work before we go and move on to other core elements that need fixing. If the physics and ragdolls got the same love, care, and attention that the gore did, we would be in good hands, but at its current state, it's sad to say, but it's very unpredictable if it's going to work. But when it does work, you can see that gameplay isn't as stiff as it once was. But unfortunately, it currently works maybe 50% of the time. But going and moving on to the final section, we're gonna call this my nitpicks. Honestly, I didn't really know where else to put them, so I'm just gonna shove them all into one section of the video. Here we go. I'm not really a big fan of the motion blur and constant camera shake that there is now when it comes to performing certain actions. Maybe it comes down to personal preference, but I just don't enjoy seeing this screen shake when dropkicking enemies now. Even messing with certain settings that should affect this, it simply does not. For the community event, we hit the global goal, but when it comes to the personal goal, that is just ridiculously way too high. I honestly didn't even bother going for the 1,000 because I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere near it. If I had to guess why the personal number was so high, there may have been some other zombie games coming out. And last but not least, they also made some brutal changes to the boosters. They nerfed some of them really harshly, and I'm kind of in the minority here, but they were kind of overpowered, so I do understand why they were nerfed, but I also understand the other side. I understand the frustration of nerfing certain elements in a PvE game. It's almost like Techland is afraid to let players be overpowered, which goes hand in hand with some of the choices that they made with the Craftmaster and how its damage is lacking there. I think my bigger issue is that these changes are quote-unquote shadow updates, where they are updated in the background. They're not advertised anywhere. It's not on the patch notes. Players are just left to go and find them for themselves, and I'm slightly annoyed by it. I just wish we got to know and see what all of the changes were. In the beginning of this video, I opened with the talk about bloody ties. All of those changes, those were actually shadow updates. They were nowhere to be found in the patch notes. But those are just my thoughts, and I'd be very curious to hear what you have to say about the gut feeling update. So go ahead, comment it down below, and I'll see you later. Bye bye. Once again, thank you so much to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Download it now on PC, PlayStation, and also Xbox. If you Use my link down below, you'll get a free bonus pack with premium content such as vehicles and account boosters and tons of more goodies. Thanks again.